Hi everyone. Today I'm reviewing Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. This is the second out of three Floyd albums I'm going to be reviewing, but I could make it four with Animals. I just don't think that album is quite as good as the other three that I'm doing. Definitely check it out if you're interested. It's more closer to like The Wall in style than say these two albums, Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here, but it's still great. So, anyways, on Wish You Were Here, it's 5 tracks long. Well, technically, you could say it's 12 tracks long if you consider each separate version of Shine On You Crazy Diamond that starts and finishes the album. It's a 9-part song, and there's 3 songs in the middle that are also really great. This album, I like to compare it to a Cadbury egg. The middle 3 songs, like the cream, is what everyone's there for. You got the Welcome to the Machine, Have a Cigar, and of course Wish You Were Here, an iconic song. But it wouldn't taste quite as good if it wasn't for the chocolate shells of Shine On You Crazy Diamond at the beginning and the end of the album. So yeah, kicking off the album we have Shine On You Crazy Diamond parts 1 through 5, which kick off with this huge spacey build up where you have this extremely clean but sort of I want to say reverby guitar over these great I can't tell if they're synthesizers or strings, but they just like fill in all this space around it, and I think that's sort of what makes Floyd's album sound so like galactic, is that they fill every corner of their sound with either these great synthesizers or strings or guitars, so it always just feels like there's so much going on, sort of like space. And it's a much different approach to sort of what we see now. And I'm definitely not hating on modern music by any means. I actually love a lot of modern music if you've seen my other stuff. But it's modern, like what they do modernly is they'll just not have anything. Like it'll just be super like reverby and sort of stripped back instrumentally, but it doesn't quite capture the just massive size of things like the intro on here, in my opinion, at least. Of course, there's exceptions to that, and I've talked about them, and I will talk about them later. But yeah, following that, we get this sort of more distorted guitar that it sort of complements the instrumental, but sort of in a way it's also breaking through because it's a lot more earthy and something you can sort of cling on to in this just vast void of the intro, before these drums start picking up and bring you into this sort of slow, kind of bright in a way, but also really dark. Like bright as in like seeing the sun from space, where like it looks bright, but it's like surrounded in darkness. And it sort of just carries through. Not a lot to say on the rest of the middle 3 parts, but they do have a great chorus to them. And there aren't a lot of vocals on these parts. It's mostly it's mostly instrumentals, but the vocals that do come in are really great, and they sort of the lyrics especially of just missing like this old friend and hoping that they're doing really well. But then we get this sax solo that leads the song out, and eventually it sort of uh, gets a little carried away and just going up and down the register. But then this sort of machine seems to kick in, and it builds up. And then we get into the next song, Welcome to the Machine, which is my favorite song on the album. I know a lot of people prefer Wish You Were Here, but just the sort of like the sadness in the voices of uh, the singers. I believe it's Roger White. Or I'm going to pronounce it wrong, no matter how I say it. So you know who he is, the bassist, and I believe the guitarist sings as well, David Gilmour. But yeah, there's just this sort of pain in their voice as they're talking about like just wanting you to like join the machine of society. And the instrumentals are great as well. It's mostly strummed, maybe acoustic. It may be electric as well. Guitars, and there's almost no drums. The rhythm is almost entirely carried by the synthesizers. And the synthesizers as well are great on this track. I may have said it in my last review, but if there's anyone out there saying, like, excusing a 60s or 70s song for having synthesizers by saying, well, the technology was really limited at the time, Pink Floyd completely disproves that, because all of their synthesizers on their 70s songs sound fantastic. But following that track, I will say one of the things that bugs me a little bit about this album is that sometimes the middle tracks end in like a kind of unsatisfying way. Like they wanted to write more, but they sort of cut it short. It's hardly an issue because I think for the most part they go everywhere they could have. But like on here, they sort of just faded out into this sort of machine buzzing overhead, and then you get all these talking voices and stuff. It could have been done a little better, but it's still a great track. Obviously, I mean all the tracks on here are great. I just think that the endings are a little bit rushed in some instances. But then we get "Welcome to the Machine," which is it sort of reminds me of the song "Money" from Dark Side of the Moon, but I feel like a little bit more bluesy. It's got more keyboards driving it, and these synthesizers have all throughout that are they sound really great. And I believe this was the world's introduction to like the actual character of Pink Floyd, which would be later sort of explored in their album The Wall, which I'll talk about next review. But yeah, another great song, even if again it sort of closes out a little bit unsatisfyingly, but it does transition us really well into the next song, Wish You Were Here, where it's sort of these big washes of synthesizer come up, and then it just cuts, and it's more of like a I want to say like a vinyl recording of the like you're hearing it outside of the album that's actually playing, like you're listening to it from a room and it's like way over there or something. But it pans to your right ear, and then you hear some talking, and they sort of shuffle through. I don't think I said vinyl, but it sounds a little bit more like a radio with like all the static going on. But they change it through a couple channels, and then eventually they get to Wish You Were Here. sort of the backing instrumental. And it plays for a little bit, and then someone picks up an acoustic guitar and they start playing along a little bit, but with embellishments here and there to make it sound more interesting before the whole song picks up. Excuse me. And it sort of takes off. This is more. I overuse the word ballad, but I feel like that's like an accurate description of the song, where they talk about how they miss their old bandmate who was around on their debut and part of their sophomore album. But then after that, he left because he was on too many psychedelics. But it is a great song. It's got all these pianos in it, and the it's just a really great line. It's extremely sad. Just a great song, yeah. And then as it continues, it sort of fades out, and you hear all these sort of synthesized wind noises going through. And then, sorry, we get parts 6 through 9 of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which are mostly similar to parts 1 through 5. But they're a lot more they sound a lot more like a closer, where they're trying to be as grand as possible to give it a proper finish, and it is a proper finish. It's a great closer, especially with the reprisal of the some of the parts from I believe it would be around part 3 of the song, but with the lyrics slightly changed up. It sounds really great. And I think that's about everything I have to say on the album. Definitely check it out. Probably not as an introduction to Pink Floyd. I'd say check out Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall if you wanted an introduction. But this is a must for anyone who's starting to get just a little bit deeper into their discography. Of course, it's still right on top, along with their other 4 albums they produced around that time. But it definitely stands up there with them. I'd give this album a 9. I feel like it's a little bit too controlled compared to Dark Side of the Moon, where they just let everything out. But it's still really great. Yeah, that's about everything I have to say. Thanks for watching.